Wednesday evening, it's the Rob and Steve Show. Here are your hosts, Rob and Steve.
Rob and Steve. Hello,
The
Rob.
crowds. Hello, Steve. How you doing?
Hey. Yes, sorry about that. A little bit late. I know there's a few of you waiting there, but I wasn't sure about the old internet this evening. See, Rob's froze there again for me.
No,
Yes,
everything
I
looks
wonder, are
good
you
to
just
me.
freezing for me, or yeah, 'tis my end too. But hey, it might just be the internet's playing up this evening. We'll see what happens. How is everybody? You're all very welcome to the Rob and Steve Show.
Rob and Steve Show.
The delightful, delectable show all about wood turning and stuff that goes with it.
Wood and stuff.
Stuff that goes with it. Yes. So, yeah, it's been a week. How's your week been, Rob? We'll start with you first before we kick the old show off.
I was actually thinking today, we're on episode 8. And I've been in lockdown now for that whole period, 8 weeks so far. So I've been sitting at home. I've been sitting at home for 8 weeks now. And I'm starting to appreciate the fact that the weather's changing and the daylight hours are getting a little bit longer. So, and there's a tree staring at me in the field next to me that I plan to cut down with my chainsaw. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, isn't it?
Cool. Before we carry on, I'm just going to ask the chat folk, is our sound all right? Because it's rubbish for me. So as long as it's all right for the viewers, then that's all that matters. But I'm struggling to hear things. So I don't know what's occurring. But we'll continue. But if everybody's hearing everything, then that's good.
Sounds good to me. So I don't know
but
what's going on.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll continue. So, yeah, you've been chainsawing. I've been, I've pretty much spent a good few days in front of the computer designing and making stuff with the 3D printer. So, thanks, Robert. Robert says that the sound is good, and Clive says all good, and Jeff says all good. So, okay, so it's good.
That's good.
Okay, it's just me. So I might just miss bits that you're saying, Rob. So I might,
there's
I might just
unusual
say,
there.
right, yeah, okay, Rob, and yeah, I might just say, okay, normal. And I've not heard you.
That's pretty normal.
So, yes, so I've been making 3D printed models and things to help me in the workshop. Some have gone a bit wrong, some have gone okay. I've got a few prototypes and things that I'm trying that will assist me in my wood turnings. And I've also, this is going to be a very shameful plug, but I've also just upgraded the product saver to a new design.
Show them my one, Steve.
Oh yeah, I'll show you yours.
Show them my one that I might one day receive.
Well, I'll show yours in a sec. So this was the old version. So it just had like TT at the top for Temple Boy Turnings, and then just PS for Product Saver. And it was a little bit, it wasn't set out very nicely because I was very new to 3D printing when I designed and made that one. So I've just upgraded to this new Funkadelic one where the hexes are just slightly, they're only like half a millimeter bigger, even though they look a lot bigger. They're not. It's just that I've stretched them out and made them fit nicer, and then it says,
looks the same,
probably not showing on the camera, but it says product. It doesn't. It says Product Saver. It doesn't. It's really not the same if you look at it.
No, I know.
But anyway, and then I've
bigger
printed Rob's. Yeah, I've printed Rob's special one here. There, look. It says.
Put something behind it. Yeah.
It's hard to see. It says WOODSLEE SUMMERCRAFT in the middle there.
Yeah.
So I might start doing custom ones if people want them. If people want a custom product saver or a couple, let me know, and I'll see if I can put your logo into them. So that's cool. So that's what I've been doing with the product savers, just upgrade them a bit, and also making jigs and tings for the workshop to help me out, making
Not
use
chips and
of the
tings.
extra tool that I have.
Not chips and
Not
tings.
chips and tings, no.
You were thinking that though.
I miss chips and tings.
Yeah, we used to have a good laugh with them.
I was thinking chips and tings.
Every weekend, we go and speak to them. Chips and tings.
Yeah. Chips and Tings was a mobile fish and chip shop that used to be in Luton Town Centre.
Luton Town, yeah.
Parked outside the cinema and nightclub.
No, it was actually parked by the library.
Stuff our face.
Steve, it was parked by the library,
yeah.
by the Strathmore Hotel. Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm old.
You are old. You don't think you remember anything, do you?
Yeah. No, I've got a really bad memory. That would be another show, actually, talking about memory and childhood, because I don't remember anymore.
You don't have.
Whenever I want to remember something from my you
have to ask me.
Whenever I want to remember anything from childhood, I message Rob and say, "What happened at this time?"
Yeah. I was actually thinking last night. Hang on, hey, I was thinking last night. Do you remember there was you, me, and our other mate, and the three of us used to hang out at the bar on the weekend, and we said we should all draw each other because we were into artwork and everything. And I don't remember who drew who, but you drew me, and I think I might have drawn you. So I don't know what the other guy drew, who the other guy drew, but it was a lot of fun because we kind of highlighted things about us. My nickname. Do you want to know what my nickname was back when I was 18? And it's still relevant today, Steve, isn't it? Eh?
It's One Eye Bob.
Do you remember? Yeah. No, Bobby One Eye.
One Eye Bob.
Bobby One
Eye. Yeah.
Anyway.
Actually, I think I might have that picture in the drawer here. I was just thinking, yeah.
I've got mine somewhere, and I think I know where it is. I could probably get that really quick. Yeah, hanging on. So that was the other guy. He was the key holder. Yes, the other guy.
Yes. No, it wasn't Stinky. Daniel said that your nickname is Stinky. Pink Car Boy. Oh yeah, because you had a pink car, Rob.
Oh, I had. What did I have? I had Kathy the Cavalier. She was copper tone. Flimp.
Well, yeah, we used to tell you it was copper tone just to make you cool. But when you showed the picture, it actually showed everyone the real color. It was actually pink, Rob. You used to drive around in a pink car, but no one dared tell you. Didn't
we bring that photo out the other day? Did we bring that photo out the other day?
Yeah, yeah. We showed that car off. Yeah.
Yeah, Kathy the Cavalier. You're so mean to me, Steve.
So yes. Chainsaws, Rob, and wood processing.
Yes, I do a lot of chainsawing, a lot of wood processing, because wood turning, when it comes to wood, doesn't have to be expensive. Trees literally do grow on trees, or should I say wood literally does grow on trees, and you can turn that wood into beautiful art and sell it and make money. So money does grow on trees as far as we're concerned anyway, right?
Yes. Money does grow on trees, definitely.
It does. So the question is, what's saleable to you as well? That's the other question, right? So different areas are going to be able to sell different things, different prices. We all know that. We're not going to get into that tonight, but that might be something worth discussing one night.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Steve?
I'm really struggling to hear you. I'm not going to lie.
I think you are.
I'm really struggling.
Can everybody else hear me? I think it might just be Steve's internet. Is it raining there, Steve? Maybe I'll text you and you can respond.
We've got a really bad, we've got a really bad storm outside. Yes, 100%. It's really bad. That's
probably why then.
That could be it.
Yeah. So
you carry on talking. I'm going to have a play for a little second. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, chainsaw is one of those tools that was probably took me a long time before I actually decided I wanted to use one, because it can be very dangerous. We can hear you fine, Rob. there's a delay from when Steve hears. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a delay. Probably that storm. So yeah, chainsaws was something that I took my time with, because you got to be super safe with those. Those are so dangerous if you're not careful. Even professionals can get hurt. In fact, talking of professionals getting hurt, I know of a guy that lost a hand, and he was probably in his 50s, and
Ouch.
yeah, he's an arborist, so that's his profession. He's been doing it for years. He actually cut down a big tree in my backyard. It was a big willow that was just messy, so I had him cut that down. But recently, I guess within the last year, he lost a hand, and the chainsaw fell across his arm, took his hand off like that. So
ouch.
Even the most experienced can still get hurt. So it just kind of shows you that you got to take that tool really seriously and be really careful.
For sure. I think I'm back now. I think I'm getting you loud and clear now. So
okay.
Hopefully I played with a few things there. So is there, just as a matter of interest, just before we do carry on, is there any arborists or tree surgeons or whatever you go by the name of in the chat that do it for a living? Because it'd be interesting to have your opinions on some of the subjects that we talk about this evening. And if you're a professional, you're more advanced than we are, because we are very amateur when it comes to chainsaws. So yeah, so I've got 2 chainsaws. I've got
5.
Yeah, I've got an electric chainsaw, which I actually killed, but then I got another electric chainsaw which is exactly the same, which has got a bent bar. It actually fell off the back of a guy's truck, believe it or not stolen, but it fell off the back of his truck when he was driving through the field, and it fell bar first, and it bent the bar on it.
Well, you can replace them. They're totally
so I'm going to make one saw out of the 2, because one motor's burnt out on the other, so I'm making the one saw. I just haven't got around to doing it. And then I've got a gas or a petrol one that I just got it. It was a cheapo one. It's quite cheap, that I got from Audi here, and it's brilliant. It flies through everything. I'm still in the process of processing and cutting up that tree that fell at my wife's home house. So yeah, it works fine.
Yes. And if you've got a sharp blade, that's key right there, because I've tried cutting with a chainsaw with a dull blade, and it's actually dangerous to do that, because you're going to be pushing, or you're going to be working harder, and really the chain needs to be sharp so the saw can do its job. You should literally just lay the blade on the wood, and it should pull itself through the wood. It should cut and pull its way through the wood. We can talk also about the way to cut the wood, end grain versus side grain.
Well, I suppose if we start from the start, we can discuss kind of some of the slides that I've put together this evening, and that's there's no doubt it's going to lead to other stuff. But if I share this, we can kind of go from this, and we'll just carry on from it, and we'll just slowly move into the process of wood and stuff like that. Then, so obviously. This is the boring bit, but as you've already mentioned with your friend losing his, none of this would have saved his arm, unfortunately.
No.
But you can save your eye, and you can save a bad cut on your leg or your foot. Put chaps on, a chainsaw helmet, face guard, gloves, heavy duty or steel toe boots. Wear safety glasses to protect your eyes. Don't wear loose clothing, which can be caught in the teeth of the saw, and never use a chainsaw without any protected gear to avoid accidental injuries. And I should have added to that, don't use a chainsaw unless maybe you've been shown by someone that knows how to use one. Diving straight in, I made a lot of stupid mistakes, to be honest with you, when I was learning. I'm not going to lie. I was trying to teach myself to use it, and I really shouldn't have. I had a couple of slips and got away with it, very lucky. And I doubt there's a person out there that probably hasn't had a close shave with a chainsaw from some little silly thing maybe, or We'll go through. Yeah, we'll go through
Shudder
all the.
Think about it.
Yeah, we'll go through all the procedures and stuff like that with chainsaws and that. How many? Yeah, never use a chainsaw drunk. Yeah,
Leona.
never use yeah.
Leona.
Leona. Never use a chainsaw while drunk either. Yeah, no, that's a popular
Probably a
one,
good idea. That's good
sure.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Well, that's not fair on the chainsaw to start with because you're going to mistreat it. Let me see what some of these are playing. Steve, you want to wear my chaps outside? That could get awkward.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to wear them and nothing else, right? Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the safe way of doing it? I don't know.
Just the chaps.
Just the chaps.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how well you are in. I'm not going to say it. I've been wearing my Oregon chainsaw booties over the winter in the workshop when turning. Comfy and toasty toes. Cool.
So it took me a while to get all of the safety gear, I'll be honest, because it's not cheap. All of this stuff costs money. You can get them when they're on sale. I bought the Kevlar chaps. There are different types of chaps. So, do your homework and get what you can afford and what's, the safest ones you can get. I don't wear gloves, but I do wear the helmet with the ear protection and safety glasses underneath the visor that comes with the hard hat thing. And I wear my work boots because I'm an electrician, a tradesperson, so I have the work boots anyway, steel toe and everything. So
I don't have chaps or chainsaw trousers. I'm going to admit that, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
I just don't use my chainsaw enough to justify the 200 and whatever euro they are to buy.
Yeah, but you say that, and it's kind of like the saw stop, right? You can't afford the saw stop, and that's a legitimate thing. But the thing is, if you lose your 3 fingers on a table saw, maybe you could have afforded the saw stop. If you take out half your leg on the chainsaw, then that $200 pair of chaps maybe doesn't sound like that much money now. So it's something to consider, that it just takes one mistake to have a really serious accident. So
I do agree. Yeah.
Push yourself, Steve. I recommend you do get the chaps.
I've looked at the secondhand the chainsaw, rather than actual chaps, they're Snickers chainsaw trousers, and they're similar to chaps, but they've just got the padding in the areas where you're likely to get kicked back or where you're likely to slip, and they're a little bit cheaper, but there's also a secondhand market for them too. So, if and when a pair comes up that's within my budget, and that's not going to take food out my kid's mouth, then I suppose I will.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got everything else. I've got the chainsaw helmet, the visor, and all that, and that was actually donated to me. But the chaps, I just don't have them. Moving on. What's the next slide? So there's the right and wrong way to start any piece of equipment. There's safety procedures to go through and stuff like that. And I know those of you that use chainsaws all the time, this is going to be like, that's obvious. But there might be someone there that listens to this podcast in a few weeks' time
new
that's never touched a chainsaw, that has just been given a whole heap of logs that need processing. They don't own a bandsaw. They don't own any kind of saw that's going to cut and process that wood in the time that they want to use it. Excuse me. This
one option too is to rent a chainsaw. So that person might go out and rent one, because that's another option. It's a cheaper option. You don't actually have to buy the equipment. You can rent it, borrow it. So in that instance, that person, brand new, never used a chainsaw, they're renting one. That's when things can go bad if they don't take all the precautions. Well, so go ahead, Steve.
And the other side of renting too is that the guys that are renting to you are more than willing to show you how to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you say, look, I'm new to this, can
Yeah.
you give me a one, even if you have to pay them an extra 20 or 30 dollars, euro, pounds, and say, listen, can you give me a lesson on how to do this properly? I'm just going to be cutting up logs such and such size. Can you show me? Don't give me a whole how to cut a tree down, but just ask them to do what you want, and they'll be more than willing to give you a quick rundown down on how to use it properly, because they don't want their machine broken either, right? So
that's right. So okay, so we're going to talk about starting it, right? You've got the chainsaw. You're going to check that it's got the gas oil mix because it's 2-stroke, and you're going to put bar oil in there as well. So usually what you would do is you'd fill those two up, and when you run out of gas, you would sharpen the blade at a minimum, depending on if it's dull prior to that. But usually every gas fill is when you sharpen the blade. So, and the bar oil, you don't want that to run out because it will get hot. So that's another thing to consider. So, and then there's the brake. Is it on? Is it off? Ask me, because I know I messed up when I first got my chainsaw. I was trying to run it and I had the brake on and I couldn't figure out why it was smoking. Why it was getting hot and smoking. I couldn't figure that out. And I realized what happened. I had hit a bolt inside the wood, and it had jolted the probably a bit of kickback in the saw, and it had automatically put the brake on. So after I had freed it up and had a look and inspected it and tried to start it up again, I didn't realize the brake was on. So I was having a hard time figuring out why. And then I realized, the brake's on. Okay, that makes sense. In fact, there's a video in my YouTube channel where I process a log, but this is a long time ago too. So give me a little bit of credit. I've learned a little bit since then.
Well, that's the other thing as well, because different saws have different stop mechanisms, right? So some of them, I was reading up on them. I don't know this. I've only just learned this from reading up on it today and doing the research. Some of them actually have a similar thing to a saw stop, that if they're cutting at a steady rhythm through a piece of wood and then they suddenly hit something hard, the brake is engaged straight away. When it feels resistance in the blade, it whacks the brake on. Now, I'm not sure how I would like that.
If you look at the brake is the black plastic piece at the front of the handle at the top. So the idea being is, if you do get kickback, the blade is going to come up and the body of the saw is going to go forward. The intention is that it applies that brake.
Exactly, yeah.
Upon kickback, the brake's supposed to kick in. So when it does actually kick back, the blade should have stopped. That's the intention of it, why it's there. So anyway, so now you're going to talk about starting it, Steve.
Yeah. So always check. We've checked the cutting oil. We've checked the
gas and oil mix.
Oh, your chain needs to be sharp all the time, and make sure that the chain blade is also, not a lot of people talk about it, is that it's set at the right tension. I know that when I first started using my chainsaw, I knew nothing about the correct chain tension, and on a couple of occasions I didn't quite get it right, and it just on starting it up, it was jamming because the blade was flipping to one side and getting jammed on the stop at the back. And I quickly learned. I went good old YouTube, looked it up, and it said, tension, that basically you're supposed to be able to pull the blade down and do a ping test. And when you pull the bottom of the blade down, the guides aren't supposed to leave the bar. So they're supposed to have a little bit of tension coming down, but the guides that keep the chain inside the bar don't leave the bar. And that's pretty much the right tension. And it pings back into place.
Ping.
So, ping.
That's a word.
That is. Lay the chainsaw on a flat spot on the ground and locate the chain brake, which is usually a lever between the top handle and the chainsaw and the blade. So that is that big plastic handle there at the top, right? So you want that on when you're starting your saw. Push the chainsaw brake forward until it locks into place and prevent the blade from spinning until you're ready to use it. turn on the choke and push the primer buttons 4 to 6 times. So if it's a petrol, you won't find one of those buttons on an electric chainsaw. It doesn't matter how much you look for it, you will not find a priming button on an electric chainsaw. Trust me. I looked for one, and
You did.
that's
seriously.
only because I did, seriously, because I completely confused myself. I went into the house. I was using the petrol chainsaw. The petrol chainsaw ran out of petrol. I didn't have petrol. So I went into the shed, got the electric chainsaw, plugged the electric chainsaw in, came out, and then spent 5 minutes looking for the priming button to start it.
So Rob CP's never used a chainsaw before. I find that hard to believe, but not everybody has.
Yeah, no, a lot of people haven't. A lot of people are scared stiff of them.
That's the whole point of this this show today, is to talk about it. And obviously the safety aspects, we've gone through that, and
yeah, exactly.
Understanding how to use it is key too, and how to hold it and position where your body should be, where your head should be, or where it shouldn't be. You know, it's all critical.
Richard Phelan says there's no primer on a still saw.
Still saws are awesome.
Is there no primer on those?
No, I've got 3 still saws. They're nice saws.
And there's no primer. I didn't know that. See, that's something I knew. I never knew.
I got a 14-inch, an 18-inch, and a 24-inch. The 24-inch I bought for my mill, for my chainsaw mill. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. So there's a correct way to start a saw too, right? People often wonder why there's a big flat space on the bottom of the handle. That's for your foot. So when you're going starting your chainsaw, you adopt the position this guy's at. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say start it up on a bench like that. I don't know.
I would have it on the floor.
Yeah, I would have it on the floor. But and he has no chaps on either, by the look of it. He's got loose clothing, so don't go by that picture. So you put your foot into the handle of the saw. You put one hand on the handle, the hand that is not your prominent hand, because you're going to be pulling the cord with your prominent strong hand, and you do quick, fast pulling action and until the saw starts. And if you've got a bad...
Richard's impressing Leona with his 72 inches. Hey, come on now.
Yeah.
It's not every man that's got a 72-inch bar. 72-inch bar. Is that got a chainsaw at each end of it? Because there are chainsaws that have a chainsaw on each side of the bar. I've seen that before as well.
Knowing Richard, all he's got at the end of his bar is a few taps of Guinness.
Yeah, that's right. That's a different kind of bar.
So you put your foot through the back handle, pull the starter rope 4 to 5 times. Use your foot to brace the chainsaw by stepping into the back handle. Place one hand on the front of the handle and lean your weight onto the saw to hold it still, obviously. With your other hand, pull the starter rope a few times until the engine starts. That's
something too about the starters. You can pay a little extra money and they have the easy start, or at least the still does, where you don't have to pull like crazy. You just pull it at a nice steady action, and it transfers that to torque inside the mechanism to make it start. You don't have to keep, you know how you sometimes you just pull in and it's painful sometimes. The easy start is a different type of mechanism that you don't have to do that. I don't have it because it's a lot of money, but
I think I had an easy start generator once, to be honest with you.
It's something to something to think about, especially as we get older. We're getting up there, Steve.
Yeah, the next saw is for when we get really old, and that's the electric chainsaws. They do everything that a petrol chainsaw does, except they wouldn't quite have the same torque in them. And they can be easily stalled as well, as in if you hit a hard bit of wood, it can just kill the saw, basically. They are limited.
Completely different feel too.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Rob and Steve, disclaimer, professionals, please seek tuition from, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, yes, do seek professional tuition. This is
Thanks, Fiona.
for entertainment purposes only, and
Well, yeah,
information
it's
that
our
we've
opinion.
gathered. Yes, there you
Allegedly, and our opinion, allegedly, this is how you start a saw. How do you start an electric chainsaw?
Push the button.
Yeah, push a button, plug it in and push the button. But there are safety tips as well. Electric chainsaws are very much the same as the gas ones. They still have lubricating oil for the blade.
Yeah.
They still have tensioners for the blade. They still have a brake. They have everything that a petrol saw has, except they have an additional cord that you plug it in the wall.
I don't think mine has a brake.
Does it not? Oh, okay.
I don't think it does. It's sitting right there. I don't think it has a brake.
Yeah, well, mine does. And the other thing is, as well, is don't go out into wet grass and puddles when you've got your 220 lead coming out the door from your saw outside. Because
anywhere for that matter, is it dangerous to be in uncertain footings? If you're standing on a hill, for example, that can be dangerous. Or if you're standing, in a puddle or muddy grounds, then you could be in for a ride there. That's not good. So
chainsaws are very dangerous if they aren't used properly. Always wear personal protective gear and don't start up the chainsaw until you're ready to use it. Make sure there aren't any other people near you and clear obstacles away from the area. Never force or push the saw. Instead, simply lay the moving blade on the location you want to cut and let the wood draw the saw in as it cuts. Clear away dirt and debris from the chainsaw's teeth and check for lodged twigs, branches in behind the guard. Never saw above shoulder height or cut anything above your head so it doesn't actually fall on you and you don't drop the saw on your head. Holding a chainsaw above shoulder height can also cause your arms to fatigue, which can increase your chances of having an accident. If you can't reach it, don't try to cut it with a chainsaw. Allegedly. So they say.
So you're talking about cutting trees down and branches and stuff like that, where ropes might be of assistance, or you might want to tie the trunk to a truck to make it fall in a certain direction. You want to stand uphill from the tree as it's falling. You don't want to be standing in its path, obviously, and you want to make sure that no one else is in its path. And do you really shout timber? Have you ever
shout wood or tree or watch out?
Timber.
You can shout watch your head.
I've never shouted it. I'm going to next time.
Daniel only uses an electric chainsaw while standing in a puddle barefoot while holding in the extra part of the cord in his teeth. That's the only way he uses the saw.
Is that
Turnage
Dubois?
Yeah, Mr. Dubois, our voiceover man.
The fake French Canadian. Jeff thought you were Canadian, Daniel, the other day when you were talking to him because of the name. Anyway.
So don't let the nose guide bar touch anything when using the chainsaw. The nose guide bar sits at the top of the saw. Make sure it doesn't accidentally hit a log, branch, or another obstruction, or it could cause the blade to kick back, which is what you were saying probably happened to you, right, Rob? Or
I've never had kickback. I've been lucky there. What are you? I'm not sure what you mean, but
when you said you hit something hard, was it? Oh no, you said a nail, was it?
Yeah. That would have been a kickback in the bolt, but it was a big log. So by the time I was down there, it didn't really come back at me or anything, but it locked the blade. So
and a chainsaw is very much like any cutting tool. You let the tool do the work, right? Let a drill the hole. Let the tool cut. You see so many people with electric power drills when they're trying to drill a hole in a masonry wall, leaning in and pushing like mad, and the drill's screaming. When if you actually just let back a little bit and let the hammer action of the drill do the work, it will go into that wall a hell of a lot quicker. People seem to think you need to push in really hard for a drill. Same with the saw.
And just like your turning tool, sharpen it before you think it needs sharpening. And if you are cutting a log on the ground and your blade hits the dirt, then it's going to need sharpening because you're probably going to hit stones and things. So that's where we've got jigs, right, as well, which we'll be talking about as well.
Richard, seriously, using a top-handled saw one-handed is a major source of accidents, and that's why reputable retailers won't sell them to people without qualifications in aerial work. Interesting. And that's a good thing. Good. So you gently lay the moving blade against the surface of the wood and allow it to cut through the material. Keep a steady grip on the chainsaw, but don't push or force the blade, or you could cause it to get stuck or kick back. Don't stop cutting until the blade cuts all the way through the wood. I know when I was first learning to use a saw, I had to cut a tree that someone gave me up the road, and it had already been felled by the builders. They'd already chopped the tree down, but the tree was whole and laying just where it had fallen. And I went to cut it up, and man, I kept making big mistakes. It wasn't dangerous. It was just bloody annoying because what I was doing was I wasn't supporting the timber. So when I was cutting, it was pinching the blade.
Pinching the bar.
Yeah. So it's pinching the blade, right? So I eventually learned, and I made wooden blocks, and I used pieces that I'd cut to support where the wood was going to stop the movement. But you've got to have that wood perfect to be able to cut through it.
I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
There are some amazing videos on YouTube that you can watch of people felling massive trees. I mean, we're not talking about felling big trees. We're talking about processing wood for wood turning and woodworking.
Yeah,
but exactly. that's where it starts, though, with a big tree coming down. So if Mother Nature brings it down, you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think most of us are only going to be processing wood and cutting up logs that we've been given, or you know, it's going to be small work rather than supportive work. So these are frequently asked questions that I've kind of researched. These aren't questions that I get asked because I'm not a professional at using a chainsaw, and you should really seek professional advice when using a chainsaw.
Disclaimer. Yes.
What happens if you put a chainsaw blade on backwards? It won't bloody cut, basically.
Doesn't cut. No, it smokes.
Unfortunately, the chain will go on either way, but if you put it on backwards, it will not cut. I know some saws you can't put them on backwards, the way the keyways work on them. I had a saw that you couldn't put the blade on backwards. That's the one I killed, actually. Remember, when holding the chainsaw, did you?
Yeah,
Remember, when holding the chainsaw, the cutting portion of the blade should face away from you, traveling from the back of the chainsaw to the front tip of the chainsaw.
That's on the top
moving
of
away
the bar.
from you and around.
On the top of the bar,
on top of the bar. Why is my chainsaw pulling to the right? Most of the time when a saw won't cut straight, it's caused by a problem with the saw chain. When a saw won't cut straight, the first component most users look at is the bar. Since a saw chain is a team of cutting teeth, the cut will pull in the direction of the side whose cutter teeth take the biggest bite. So if you've got some teeth that are taking more chunks, it's going to pull it that way, right? Because the teeth do this, right, on a chain. They're set like this. So when they're cutting, if this side's cutting, it's going to pull it over.
It's a kerf.
A kerf. Oh, what am I doing? Why does the chain on my chainsaw keep coming loose? One of the most common reasons why your chain might be coming loose is because it was not set properly. When you go through the step to tension your chain, you need to finish those steps by setting the tension so it won't change as you work your saw. There is locking mechanisms and they actually click into place to hold it. And I know that with some saws, the cheaper saws, they shake free, they shake loose. How do I know what angle to sharpen my chainsaw? Most standard chains are sharpened at 25 to 35 degrees for cross-cutting wood, and for ripping with the grain, it's best to use a 10 degree. So if you're cutting with the grain, you should be using 10 degree sharpened chain. They do make ripping chain that comes sharpened at 10 degrees for cutting with the grain of the log. Most chainsaws you buy, DIY chainsaws, the lower end would be the 25, 35 degree range. I've never had a 10 degree blade on my saw. Have you, Rob?
I do on my 24 inch. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but
yeah,
it's a
for milling. Yeah,
it's a skip tooth saw, and some of the teeth are thinner as well. But I don't sharpen that one myself because it looks a bit complicated to me. So I just take it to the steel dealer, and that's where I bought the chains from. I bought 2 chains. They're not cheap. They're about $60 each. And I have them sharpen them when they need sharpening. And it costs about $10, but at least then I know it's done properly.
And you get some time out of that as well.
Yeah. You can sharpen it numerous times.
Can you over tighten a chainsaw chain? There is a tension screw located near the base of the bar. Now this is different saws have different tensioning bars. So you read the instructions of your own saw to get the tensioning rules for that saw. Near the base of the bar on the chainsaw, to tighten the chain, turn in a clockwise, and to loosen, turn it counterclockwise. Don't over tighten the chain as it could cause it to break. Always follow the instructions and guidelines for your make and model of saw. They can vary. Another more common cause of not cutting straight is that the blade wears more on one side than the other and must be dressed periodically. Yeah, I mean, Rob was talking about that before the show, actually, about the guides and blade, that you have to sharpen them down to the same level, right? Because otherwise your blade's going to get lower. You're going to take more off of your blade when you're sharpening, isn't that right?
I'm not sure if he's talking about the same thing, but each tooth has got a guide behind it too. And that will determine how deep that tooth goes into the wood. And if you don't take that down as you remove the tooth, it's just not going to cut. So they get sharpened together at the same time. And usually you would do 3 passes in a forward motion only, not a reverse motion. You go forward across the tooth, 1, 2, and 3, and that would be it. And you do every tooth and every guide. We're calling it a guide. I'm not 100% sure what you call it. Can you point at it, Steve? It's a depth gauge, I guess. No, on the left there.
So this is the blade.
Yeah.
Here. And this is the guide.
It's like a depth gauge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the tooth can only go down as far as the top of that depth gauge. And if you don't take that down, eventually you've got sharp teeth, but it's not cutting, and you won't know why. Well, that's why. So,
and that's your angle there that you set your.
Where would be the best place to get some instruction on how to use one safely? Ian's asking. Go on and put that one up, Steve. Ian. You could go to a dealership. And that would be your best source of information, because they're going to sell you the saw, so they're going to tell you they're going to instruct you on the safe use of it. And if you are not certain, they'll probably let you know where you can get some training on or whatever.
I know, depending on where you live, country-wise, I know that here in Ireland, I've asked how to use certain tools, and they've been more than willing to help, or they've put me in touch with people that have used them a lot, and they'll give me a number and they'll say, you use this and whatever. But in England, in the UK, I remember my dad telling someone that they could go to a dealer and they'll explain how to use a tool. It was actually an auger, a big auger drilling tool for drilling into earth to put posts in, and that person went to that person and they said, we're not going to give you any information on how to use that. Go and get professionally trained, because we only sell them. We don't.
But they might at least let you know where you can go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like they said, if you go off and drill your foot off, you're going to come and sue us for telling you how to do it. And that's where you've got to be careful. But yeah, most people will, there is, and Rubber Dub said there is courses available in Ireland for chainsaw use. Exactly. And I'm sure there's professional chainsaw classes.
Yeah, there's places around where you can get safety instruction on tools and different things. So, and it would be the same thing in the hardware store. If you go to Home Depot or anywhere that sells them, and they should be able to instruct you where you can get that sort of information. So failing that, look on Google it, safety training for chainsaws, and I'm sure you'll find something local.
So that's kind of the basics of the chainsaw. That's all I have on the chainsaw, Mr. Rob.
Yes, Steve.
Covered quite a lot there, and yes, we are not professionals, but things like this I don't think get discussed enough on shows and things, probably because people are afraid to talk about it. Maybe I don't know.
We're not afraid to talk about it, but don't take our word as gospel, because we are not professionals. As we stated that throughout the whole show. We're just gonna give you our experience, and obviously there's people out there in chat with more experience, no doubt. But it's good to talk and have feedback as well from you guys, so we can discuss that.
There are several ARB training suppliers in Northern Ireland. Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, it pretty much in every country, if you Google or look up, you will probably find even arborists and professionals that are maybe a bit slow in work and stuff like that are probably doing training and teaching of using the tools, maybe, you know. But like I say, it's like anything. Get professional tuition if you can.
Yeah, there's a guy that lives just around the corner from me. He's an arborist. I got a call. Actually, Ruby called me. She says, do you want some burl? Like, that's a stupid question. Yes, I want some burl. So she says, meet me here. And it was like around the corner. And this guy had a pallet load full of burls that he'd cut off of trees because, you know, being an arborist, he comes across them. So oh,
wow.
He was giving them to us for reasonable money, anywhere from $5 to $30 for each burl. Some of them were small, some of them were bigger. And I said to him, I said, yeah, if you come across some burl, let me know, because I am interested. So what I need to do still actually is bring him something that I've turned and say, here, do you remember me? The wood turner around the corner.
Definitely.
So
payback,
is definitely a gift that we can have, right? Is to give our craft away.
Whenever anyone gives me a felled tree or fallen tree or wood that they picked up or whatever, I'd like to try and make something for them and take it to them and give it to them. Ian, they usually have different courses for whatever is required, e.g. forestry or farming, etc. Last I checked, there was 4 or 5 levels here in Ireland. So thanks for that, Rubber Dub. Lots of information there. A couple of other tips that I read: keep left arm locked and don't keep your head in line with the chain while cutting.
Exactly. I was going to say that. Yeah. So the hand that's holding the trigger is bent. The hand that's holding the solid bar where the brake is locked. So basically, if you get kicked back, the saw's going over your head. If your arm's bent, it's coming up to your face. But if your arm is locked, then the idea is the kickback will go over your head. And that's the reason you keep that arm locked. And of course, if your head's in line with if you have a tendency to look down the line of the cut, your face is directly in line with that blade, which you don't want. So that's another reason.
Sarah says that her electric chainsaw has a built-in sharpener.
Interesting.
Cool. Very cool. I know there's other sharpeners that you just push your saw into, isn't there? And you run them and it sharpens it as well. But I've been told that it can damage or bind up the blade, I think.
Oh, I haven't seen those. You've got a couple of pictures of sharpeners.
No.
Did you bring them up yet?
I have. Yeah, we're going to go into. Yeah, we'll get the pictures up of sharpening.
Sharpening. That's kind of jigs and tools, isn't it? A little bit.
Oh yeah, actually, do you know what we'll do? We'll do that. We'll
bring up your thing.
We'll yeah, we'll
jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools,
jigs and tools. Okay, bring some up. I can't hear you, Steve. Oh, what happened?
I don't know.
Jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools.
Okay, I saw it twice now.
My internet's playing up. I pushed it once and it played 7 times. So there you go. That's super. Obviously, the storm is playing havoc on the old internet.
So what are we looking at?
Yes, we'll go down this end first. There we go. So this is the first sharpening system, I suppose, for a chainsaw. That's not. I just want to explain that it says electric chainsaw sharpener. It doesn't just sharpen electric chainsaws. That's not what that means.
The actual tool itself.
Yes.
The actual tool itself is electric.
Yes, exactly.
I have one of those. I think there must be a learning curve with that because I don't feel like I know what the heck I'm doing with it. So that's where professional help would be, I suppose. But I've tried using it and I don't feel like it's doing the job right. There's a few things you have to adjust. But I'm sure it must be relatively. I might get Victor next door to help me because he's got one. He's Italian and knows everything.
Well, I've got that exact one there in the picture, and I get on great with it. I've got it set perfectly. It came with a guide that you just set it all up. So if you want a 30 degrees or whatever, you just put it. It's like a square, for want of better words, set at the right angles, and you put it in, click it into place, and bzz, bzz, away you go, and it's pretty quick. The only thing I don't like about it is that you have to take the chain off the saw to do it. Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like. Whereas with the hand ones,
it gives you an opportunity to clean it out too at the same time, though.
Yeah, this is your other option for going down the electric route as well, is if you have a Dremel or a rotary tool, you can get a Dremel adapter for sharpening your chainsaw. I believe you can leave the chain on the saw when you're using this. And then you've got the one on the left here, right, Rob?
I use the one on the left, and it does 2 cuts in one. It cuts the tooth and the guide at the same time, which I like. And if you look at the handle on the left-hand side of that, there's a little picture of the chainsaw, and it shows you how to position it depending on which tooth, because every other tooth points in a different direction. So you have to approach it from both sides, every other tooth. So the left on one, the right on the other, backwards and forwards. So initially you'd be on one side of the bar, you'd do every other tooth, and then you'd flip to the other side of the bar and then do every other tooth, and then you'd be done. I quite like that, but the only thing is it doesn't feel very stable when you're pushing it. But that's what I've been using now for several years, and I get along really well with it. I find it pretty easy.
What's the price range for that?
I think it's about $60. Don't quote me on that because it's been a long time. I've had it a long time, so I don't recall. I know steel products are quite expensive, but they are good products.
The one on the right there, this one here, I've had 3 of those and broke 2 of them.
So why did you buy a third?
Well, because they work.
Mm.
They work really well, and I get on.
Yeah.
I get on well with it. But the file,
It's so
whatever the
small.
metal,
Yeah.
it breaks so easy. So
Well, yeah. Files
I
are
mean,
brittle.
I broke one from just being too heavy-handed when I first bought it. The second one got broken when it fell off the shelf in the shed, and it hit whatever was on the floor wrong, and it just broke it right. That it's always at the tang of the handle they break. So
the one on the left, I've never broken it. It's pretty solid. It has metal bars that go through it as well, so it's pretty solid.
I don't use that. Like I say, I use my electric one now. I get on really well with that. I've got 2 blades for my saw. I've actually got 3 now because I got one in the second-hand one that I got given there a couple of weeks ago. That's broken, but it works. That I'm going to make one saw out of, if you know what I mean. It's the one with the broken bar. So I've now got 3 blades. So it's handy. I can have 2 sharp blades up on the shelf and swap them out, and then just keep them sharpened, which is really handy. These are Rob's saws. These are 2 of your saws, I believe.
2 of them, yeah. So the one on the right I've got down here, and I don't really use it. It's an electric chainsaw. Yeah, I don't use it, but I don't know why I don't use it. It just doesn't feel the same. Like, it doesn't feel like it cuts the same as a gas saw. The one on the left I purchased in the last year sometime, and I was using it to cut a massive pussy willow that was growing at the side of my carport. Massive.
You, sir.
It was huge. And I cut the whole thing down with that. And yes, I was holding it above my head, stretching it out 10 feet.
That's designed to do that, no?
Exactly, yeah. Really nice little saw, actually. And you know what? I cut that whole thing down and I didn't sharpen it once. Again, it takes oil, just like any other chainsaw, but it's electric. So you plug it in and you push the button and it cuts. Great little saw. That cost me $100. So that was a really good deal, that one.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you that chainsaws, even though they come in all different shapes and sizes, you still have to treat them the same, right? You still have to use them with caution. Just because it's smaller doesn't mean it's not going to take your hand off. So this is your gas-powered Stihl and your electric-powered Stihl. Electric-powered Makita. They would be the higher end of the market of chainsaws.
And there's Husqvarna too, which is a really good brand. Stihl, I think Stihl are the best.
But Husqvarna are relatively new compared to Stihl, though, aren't they? They're not around as long, are they? I don't think.
Not sure. Stihl's been around a long time. So yeah, this is the chainsaw mill. It's the same chainsaw mill that I have, and I bought a 24-inch chainsaw specifically for that. It's a Stihl, but don't ask me what numbers they are because I can't remember. The 800 and some would be way better for sure. The more power, the better with these things. But my one still works. Just taking it easy, just taking it easy. 19 inches. I can cut 19 inches with a 24-inch bar. You do lose some of the capability of the length of the bar because of the mill itself. And you got to watch that you don't squeeze the bearing at the front end of the blade, because that will jam up the saw, because you're squeezing the blade between the 2 brackets, one at the front and one at the back. So
how does that work, Rob? How is your saw orientated on that?
Did I not send you a photograph? I thought I sent you a photograph.
No, not of it actually working. No.
Darn. You keep talking for a minute and I'll... Oh, right here.
Okay.
Hang on. Let me send you this.
Okay.
I thought I sent it to you. I'm pretty sure I did, but...
No. Nope. I have all the pictures you sent me. I was doing well too. There's always one missing each week. It's kind of a thing now. Maybe we shouldn't ever change that now, because it's...
There you go. I just sent you a picture.
Okay. You keep talking. I'm going to pick it up.
So right here, I've got a picture that he's going to see. It's a piece of hard maple that's got the ambrosia beetle. We talked about that the other week. So it's a bit of ambrosia maple. It's not spectacular ambrosia maple, but it's pretty nice for free wood. That's the main thing. A buddy of mine that lives not too far from here had a tree that was his neighbor's cut down, and he was given a lot of the wood. So me and him spoke, and he said, "Yeah, come over, bring the saw, and I'll we'll mill it up." And he sold a bunch of boards to my wood turning guild people, and made some money for himself because he's been out of work a long time. And I took some of the wood for cutting it up for him. I didn't charge him anything for it. I just took a little bit of wood, like one board from each log, and then it's a lot of fun. You got to be safe. Same safety things take an effect. You got to hold it properly. You got to use the oil. Use a little bit extra oil if you can, because the blade is basically jammed there between the wood, and the weight of the wood can be on the bar. So you want to add a little bit of extra oil on the end if you can. Did you see the photo I sent you?
Yeah, I'm just getting it now. Bear with.
Okay, so the first cut is I'm not going to say the first cut is the deepest. The first cut is the hardest, because you're basically
I know.
You've got the bark. So if the bark's not even, I put a board either side of either end of the log, and then I have runners that run the length of the log, one either side, and then my chainsaw mill sits on top of those runners, not that one, that one. So that's me sitting there with my chainsaw mill. It's not really set up to show you how I'm cutting it, but you get the general gist. But
you're such a poser. Look at you. Jesus.
I got my safety vest on and everything. Yeah. But it's a good machine. You get a lot of sawdust from that too. The other thing I'd like to mention too about the chainsaw mill is the fact that you're cutting end grain. Now, you know that you're chopping away at the end of fibers, so you're just creating dust. You're not making shavings like side grain. When you're cutting side grain, you're pulling strands of wood out. Whereas if you're cutting end grain, you're basically just cutting off the ends of the wood. So it's a different type of blade on there altogether. It's like a skip saw blade specifically for end grain cutting. And you'll see some of the teeth are actually smaller. It's a different angle, like you mentioned, 10 degrees, I think you said.
Yeah.
But
10-degree blade for milling. Yeah.
So that's the blade that I take in and have them sharpen it. I bought two of them. They're $60 each, and $10 roughly to have it sharpened, and I'm good to go again. But
I just wanted to share, just while we're on the milling, the pictures for different jigs that you can use for holding logs and for processing wood. They're at the end of this year. So there's different ones. I've got one that I made that's like the A-frame one here on the right. That works really well for the smaller logs and things. You just literally just slide your log through the A-frame, and then you just lean the A-frame back, and it holds it at the right height for you to just chop whatever length you want off the end of each log, and it works really well. I've got one of those. Just knocked it up in about 15 minutes, and it does a great job. Now, obviously, you've got to make it the right size to fit whatever logs that you're.
Ben says, "Is that Phil Collins cutting wood?" Honestly, come on, no. Hey, if I had his money.
I don't think I've got up-to-date chat on my whatever's going on with my internet. It's literally just jumped up there now when I move the chat. There you go. Yeah. So he was hearing it in the air tonight.
You know what's really good for a bracket for holding the wood is a pallet. If you can get a hold of a wooden pallet, you can jam that log on top of that pallet, because there's space in there where it will stick, and then you can cut the wood right on a pallet. That's a really cheap and easy method. You can manufacture things like that.
These are a couple of other jigs. Now, this one on the right, I've actually seen a guy using it, and what that is, he's made that so that he can lift it up off of his bandsaw, and he puts another piece. You can see the guide on the bottom there that goes into his bandsaw, or I don't know how he works it. I think there's like a spinner on the bottom of it, but he takes it and he puts it onto another base, and then he takes it outside and he uses it for processing logs, bigger logs, with his chainsaw. Then he brings it back in, pops it onto his bandsaw, and then he cuts the logs into blanks. The circumference
he's cutting across.
I don't. Yeah, he cuts them cross, but he also manages to put that. I don't know how he does it, but he puts it, and it. No, I'm wrong. He's got another one that then he puts on the same plate that's a circle cutting jig. Then, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that's his cross cut, and then he has another one that he puts in. But I just thought it was handy. He's using the same tool for two purposes, and the one on the left is a sawhorse that someone has adapted the top parts that they swing into different angles to hold different size logs. I thought that was a good idea too. The only thing that I'm not too keen on that is the height of it. Maybe is your saw's quite high at waist height when you're cutting, but not too bad. I suppose it's no different to when I'm using my A-frame.
Just below waist height is good. You know, the older you get, the less you want to lean down.
Yeah, that's true. Doing anything.
Yeah, that's right. But I've got one that I made out of a piece of chipboard, a piece of a 4x8 piece of chipboard. I basically cut it into 2 foot by 4 foot pieces, and then on the 4 foot length, I cut V grooves into it, and then I basically sandwiched them together and drilled holes through them at several places, and I basically separated them with pipes and ran a threaded rod through those holes, and it kind of just supports it all together. It's a I haven't got a picture, so it's kind of, you got to use your imagination on that one, but it works pretty good.
I've got some funky Mad Max thing in my mind from what you just described, so I'm not going to pretend I know what you're talking about.
Mel Gibson uses it.
So that's chainsaws. I think we'll probably move on to the processing of wood, shall we? Sure. Which is pretty much, so I think we'll go from because I've put all the pictures in the same file. I think we'll do this.
And now it's time for the wood of the week.
Wood of the week? Wood of the week.
Yeah, because it's all pretty much on the same file, and it's,
I forgot about wood of the week.
So,
I forgot about wood of the week. I did. So okay, so we're done with chainsaws.
To remind you, old man.
We're done with chainsaws.
Well, kind of, because we're going to be talking about wood and how we cut wood up, right? And
okay, we'll start with wood of the week, and then we'll move into blanks and wet wood, and after the chainsaw, what happens next?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I can tell you what I do, and it works perfect for me. Well, there you go. There's an example right there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're talking about cutting up wood there.
I'll leave it on there, and then we'll go from. Or do you want me to go to the tulip? We'll go to the tulip.
Are we doing wood of the week? Yeah, tulip. Okay,
yeah,
so wood of the week. Wood of the week is tulip wood. Most commonly, tulip wood is the greenish yellowish wood yielded from the tulip tree, found on the eastern side of North America and also in some parts of China. In the United States, it is commonly known as tulip poplar or yellow poplar, even though the tree is not related to the poplar. In fact, the reference to poplar is a result of the tree's height, which can exceed 100 feet. The wood is very light, at around 490 kilograms per cubic meter, but very strong, and it is used in many applications, including furniture, joinery, and moldings. It can also be stained very easily and is often used as a low-cost alternative to walnut and cherry in furnitures and doors and things like that. American tulip wood, commercially, American tulip wood is one of the most prolific hardwood species in the U.S. Hardwood forests and is unique to the North America, having been eliminated in Europe by the last ice age, which is interesting. Other common names: yellow poplar, tulip poplar, canary, whitewood, not to be confused with European or Chinese poplar. And tulip wood, interestingly enough, the growth exceeds the harvest in all states. So it's growing faster than they're cutting it down. So that's good for the tulip tree. Tulip wood trees grow exclusively in North America and are widely distributed throughout most of the eastern United States in mixed hardwood forests. It is a single species and not a poplar. I think I said that once. It is actually superior. It is actually superior to the many poplar species. The trees are huge and identified by the tulip-like flowers, giving rise to the name tulip wood. It grows from north to south and is one of the most sustainable hardwoods in the USA. So that's tulip wood. And I have never turned tulip wood.
No, I haven't either. It looks like a nice wood. It looks to me, though, as well, that it's got that, that yellow blur you get in some light-coloured woods that just doesn't look nice. Well, do you know the yellow staining that I mean?
Yeah, but you got to take this into consideration. A wood like that is screaming for colour.
Yeah. I can't hear it, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, it's the same as so poplar wood too. I've got a big poplar blank sitting in the back there, and it's telling me I've got to colour it. I have to because it's a very green wood. What kind of wood is it, Rob? It's tulip wood. It's tulip wood.
I put a post up while you were saying all that, saying everyone has to take a drink every time you say poplar or tulip.
Yeah, I did.
We've got very drunk people in the chat now.
Well, I'm sorry,
Ian.
I'm sorry.
Ian says the first bowl he turned without Wayne standing behind him was a tulip wood bowl. Cool. Yeah. So that's tulip wood. Yeah. It's probably a definitely one to colour.
One to colour, texture, and embellish, and all that good stuff. I think
that's tulip flowers.
It is actually related to the magnolia tree.
Okay.
I read that as well, and that's why the flowers are very similar to magnolia, and you can see the leaf is also shaped like a tulip almost.
Similar to a maple leaf too. No,
it's not. It's not. It might look like it, but it's not. It's just.
Well, it bloody is, because I'm looking at it. Bloody is.
You don't know what a maple leaf looks like.
Bloody is.
It's more like a tulip than a maple leaf.
It looks like a sycamore leaf.
Coming from a guy that only has what is it? Spalted beach.
Don't. Mister, I wake up with wood next to my bed.
Yeah, I do. Anyway.
Yes. Right. So, yeah, processing wood. We'll move on to processing. This is a lovely piece of wood. This is what you don't want your blank looking like.
So this was on Facebook yesterday, actually. Some fella was, he had a blank and he put it on the lathe. He turned the outside to that. And then he walked away for the night and came back the next morning, and that's what he found. Now, I don't know how many of you guys use a moisture meter. If you are concerned that that blank has got moisture in it, I can tell you this. You can save it from doing that by just covering it with a plastic bag. So put a plastic bag over it, tie it off so that the moisture that's in there can't escape. Because as soon as it starts drying out, that's what's going to happen. I actually have a blank back here that I cut, I think 2 weeks ago. It's a piece of walnut. What was I doing? I was doing a video. It was my last video that I did for the wood show, which
probably
was
playing with your wood like you always are.
Yeah. Well, I cut this piece 2 weeks ago. Let me just show you what I've done with it. I will go and get it. I'll be right back. Talk about me while I'm gone.
You tell him, Liana. You tell him. Can't beat a nice bit of sported beach.
Right. So this is
you're
a
in
piece.
You're in trouble with Leona.
Why is that?
She said, "Don't be knocking Irish sported beach."
I'm
Rob
not.
Summerlin.
I'm not. I love it. I do. I love it. So this is your basic kitchen.
Hold on, let me
black bag. So I had some walnut that was given to me and it's just a log, and I cut it into reasonable sized pieces. Some of it I cut in half, so now it's like the log's cut that way, both ways. So now it's half a log, and then I took it to the bandsaw and cut it into a bowl blank. That's kind of a rough bowl blank, and I flattened this so that I can put a faceplate there. But this was cut 2 weeks ago and put in a plastic bag, and you can see that there is no signs of cracking at all on that. None at all. So if you want to cut a piece of wood into a bowl blank and process it, this is still very wet in my hand. Let me just get my moisture meter. It's probably above 35% moisture. That would be my guess. Yeah. The bottom light, that's 35%.
That's dry in Ireland.
So it's flashing at 35, so it's above 35% moisture. If I leave that on the side like that now, I guarantee you tomorrow I'll wake up and it'll be all cracked. But if I put it in this black bag, I can guarantee you that it won't be cracked. And then basically what I can do is rough turn that, and I would still keep it in the bag and do the microwave thing. Now, I just did a video on YouTube, and I think we've talked about this before anyway, processing wood from wet wood to dry wood. Basically, I can take a blank like that and have it finished within 27 days to a month. And that's instead of having that happen. And trust me, I've had that happen. It's not that I haven't seen that. I have. It's just learning.
Shut your face, Adam. Big troublemaker, yeah.
What's he doing? What's going on?
He said, Steve, Bowls, can't believe Bowl Chat is going on your podcast. It's our podcast, so therefore I accommodate Bowls. Yeah. And yes, we're just going to do a full show on boxes next week, just to
boxes. You don't do boxes.
I do boxes.
You do shapes.
Big fish, little fish, cardboard box.
Okay.
Yes. So let's talk about
cutting
wood up. Let's go to.
That's a good one there.
This one. Well,
okay.
This kind of talks about warpage. So we'll go from cracks to warpage, and then we'll do processing and cutting them from the log. But this is actually a really good website that I found. It's Woodcraft magazine. The link is in the description below, and actually I'm going to go back and read about it, because this is one thing that I want to learn more about, is the shrinkage of wood and how it warps and twists and why it warps and twists. Stop it, Robert.
Steve's shrinking. Steve's wood shrinking.
Yes. Well, again, it's an age thing, but we'll not go there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is actually a really good example.
Barbara Dill is in the house.
Hi, Barbara. Will you protect me,
Barbara?
What's his name?
I'm Rob. Nice to meet you, Steve.
No, you're not Rob. You're Clack or Click or Clock, or whatever your name is.
Clack, yeah.
Yeah, Clack.
Anyway.
So this apparently is how wood warps after you cut it. The quarter sawn vertical grain is the best way to cut, and that is why a lot of bowls are cut from that section of wood, I'm presuming. The pith is just wood that you can just throw in the fire. That is firewood right there, pith wood. But I just find it really interesting the way that they've described the way this wood warps.
Well, it's the grain pulling. That top piece,
yeah.
You can see the grain is going across the plank, and as it's shrinking, it's doing that, which makes sense. So cupping, it's cupping, and you'll find that in the hardware store with pine boards. It's a good idea when you're buying 2x4s, 2x6s, or whatever, to just look at the end grain and see what direction it is. If the grain is going across the length of that 2x6 or whatever, then you can almost guarantee that whole board is going to cup.
Right, because I've had spindles twist on the lathe overnight. Again, like that, where I've left them, I've turned them, gone inside, come back out, and they've literally twisted and gone up and dropped in the center. Where they're between center, they've dropped in the center, and that is because of that. Now, it doesn't bother me because most of the stuff I turn is pretty much knackered and bent anyway, but it just added to the feature.
Eva's asking why the pith is so bad. The pith is the oldest part of the heartwood, and essentially what it is extremely hard there, and the entire tree, when you're drying it, will dry at different rates, and that's why it cracks, because it's all drying at different rates, the softer wood compared to the harder wood. So the pith is always where the cracks will start. That, you know, and that's another thing we're going to talk about. What's wrong?
There is nothing wrong with spindle twisting, Barbara. Nothing wrong with spindle twisting. Absolutely nothing wrong with spin. I'm going to get in first. I'm going to get in first. I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to do. I got my book. I got my book, Barbara. I got my book. I got mine first too, before Rob. No, I got mine first before Rob.
You get. What are you like? I got mine today in the mail. Like literally just before the show started, I went outside and there was an Amazon box sitting on the doorstep, and I'm like, oh, so open it up, and sure enough, there it was. So I'm gonna be looking through that, and that's a very nice book.
It is,
Barbara.
Very cool book.
I'm very excited to have that, because I'm not much of a spindle turner, but no, I had a quick flick through it, and there's some pretty cool work in there. So I'm looking forward to really taking my time and so playing with some of that stuff. So
if you want any pointers on how to do it, just give me a shout.
I'll ask Barbara, actually.
Well, you've got a book. You don't need to.
Well, if I do, I'll be talking to Barbara. She's the lady that knows the stuff. She knows her stuff.
And Robert Dubbs just used a very Irish term. He called us some blow-ins, and he's had his book a couple of years.
What's that mean? I don't know what that means.
You're a blow-in.
Okay.
I'll explain it to you later. So the orientation of a log and where bowls come from, we're just looking at bowls when cutting. Now, you can get your spindles too on the side pieces here. So you get your bowls from the top, bottom.
Steve, does it hurt you to say bowls?
Bowls. No, it doesn't, no.
You don't like bowls.
I've said, like I've explained, I don't mind bowls. I don't mind bowl turning. I just can't watch it every single day being done.
No. I know there are on YouTube, there are certain people that just turn bowls one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And it can get old. If even myself, like, I don't know, I'm definitely not the best YouTuber out there. I try, and I'm enjoying it, and that's the main thing. If I enjoy it, it's nice to chat with certain people. Will join in the chat that I recognize the names and stuff, and it's just a whole community thing. And there's no need to be what?
Hey, Rob.
What?
When was the last time a young lady said that to you?
Call me. It might have been Debbie Harrison back in the 80s. Did you get that?
Not as in not Debbie Harry.
Oh, Debbie Harry. Sorry, damn, I got it wrong. Yes. Yes, Debbie Harry, Blondie. Anyway.
Yes. So bowls, that's pretty much the how you would process a log.
Yeah. You
would cut your bowls in that orientation, and you, as I said, you can take your spindles out the side there. We have a better there's an end view of where
Eva, she's a singer from Blondie, the group. Anyway, carry on.
Yes, is that kind of how you would cut your bowls from a blank? Yes,
that is that's a very big piece of wood, and quite often I would just cut right down the middle. Quite often, The pieces of wood I have aren't that big, so more often than not, I would just cut down the middle. I had that big piece of spalted maple outside that was just massive.
Yeah.
I just kind of cut in different angles to get pieces that would be usable. I don't intend on making any bowls out of that because spalted wood is, as we know, can be very punky, and to actually stabilize a bowl blank would be just more than I really want to do. To be honest, I don't want to stabilize a bowl blank.
Do you even consider wood shrinkage and stuff like that when you're cutting blanks? Do you even think about the fact that it doesn't really matter to wood turners that much, I don't think, because we're going to be turning it to a round form anyway eventually. So if it just moves slightly anyway, we're more than likely going to be turning it once it's dried, or we're going to be drying it after we've turned a lot of the meat away from it. So would you really worry about shrinkage too much and how you're orientating a blank from a log?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think about that because
you're the only person here that I can talk to.
There's nothing you can do about it. The wood is going to do what it's going to do, and then you have to create something with what you're left with. As far as if you rough a bowl out, then yes, you make sure there's enough meat there that the shrinkage will still leave you enough wood there to work with. I have a bowl back here somewhere that I turned from green wood, thin. I don't know. Did we look at that already? I can't remember. I turned it thin all the way through, complete when it was wet.
We did, yeah.
And it warped, but it didn't crack. Mainly, again, because it all dried at the same time at the same rate, so it doesn't crack. So if you turn it thin from wet wood, and it's equal thickness all the way through from the rim all the way down to the bottom, then it most likely won't crack. There's a good chance it will dry while you're working on it, and but it will warp, guaranteed. If you don't want it to warp, then leave it to 1/10 of the diameter, so a 10-inch bowl down to a 1-inch thick wall, top to bottom. And what I personally do is in one of my YouTube videos I just released. Basically, I take that bowl blank. I don't use end grain sealer. A lot of guys are using end grain sealer. I never use it. I've used it and still had wood crack on me.
I have as well.
So I tend to take that bowl blank, and if I've processed it, I've got some in the corner there, some big bowls. I think you guys may have seen me rough turn one 14-inch piece of maple, great big one. I will turn it down to the thickness, ready for drying, and shove it in a plastic bag, and then leave it there. And you can microwave it. I use that method myself quite often. I'll microwave it 55 seconds at a time, 2 or 3 times, get the wood so it's kind of hot and it starts steaming off, and then shove it back in the bag. And then the next day do the same thing. Turn the bag inside out. The inside of the bag is all wet. You've released that moisture from the wood. Weigh it, write that down on the bowl. The bowl gets lighter and lighter in weight. Usually, well, the one I just did recently, it lost 1/3 of its weight in moisture. It started out about 950 grams approximately, and it went down to about 650 grams when it was dry. But until it's dry, keep it in that bag and then keep microwaving it every day. And that will dry the wood and it won't crack. If you leave it out of the bag, then it will crack, guaranteed. But shove it back in that plastic bag, close it up. It works for me every single time, and I've done it a lot of times. So
on the topic of boards, how much cheaper do you think it would be to buy a 2/3 inch thick dried board to cut bowl blanks as opposed to buying them?
2/3 inch?
Oh, I've read that wrong. Well,
2/3
2 to
inch.
3 inch maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's 2 to 3 inches. That's how.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say this 2/3 inch is going to be very thin.
Well, that doesn't even compute.
Well, it's 2/3 of an inch.
What is 2/3 of an inch?
It's half of 2/6 of an inch.
Yes.
Don't do maths. I don't do maths. But boards. I had to turn 4 matching bowls It was lime wood, actually. The person wanted lime wood bowls, very boring wood, very soft as well. But I bought 2 boards that fitted the 4 bowls. So I got 2 bowls from each board, and it worked perfectly okay for me. It did work out expensive though, compared to buying bowl blanks. In the end, I would have been better off buying 4. I just couldn't get 4 bowl blanks the same size at the time from the only store that I could go to. So I had to buy the boards, but it worked out a lot more, and you have a lot more wasted wood. You're buying more waste wood, depending on how you process it. I got a couple of spindles out of it, but nothing major.
And again, going back to chainsaws and cutting wood down and stuff like that, if you're lucky enough to have people around you that are cutting trees down, and even trees that fall down at the side of the road, at the edges of the roads and stuff, usually people are quite happy if you take that wood away, or speak to the property owner. Definitely speak to the property owner if you can, to find out if you can get permission to take a log or something. Or, I find I'm fortunate enough here that there is literally wood growing in trees.
Yes.
Yes.
We have, or I do. I don't. I'd say Leona does as well. And most of the people in Ireland probably have a lot of difficulty with moisture content in wood. It's so damp and bare here in Ireland that even dry wood is not dry.
Where's Tommy from? Tommy Workshop. Where's he at? Where is he, in Ireland or England? Or
Tommy, Tommy is Ireland, I believe.
Okay. No, I'm not saying it is necessarily that easy for everybody. Like I said, I'm very fortunate here. And I feel bad for Steve, especially because he's my mate, that he doesn't have the supply of wood, because I'd be more than happy to give
Tommy's
him...
UK, yeah. Tommy's UK.
Okay, Tommy. I've got literally loads of wood, and I'd be more than happy to give Steve piles of it. I actually live on a river. There's a river at the back of my house, and next to me is a wooded area. So there's tons of wood around me, and the river actually brings me wood. You've seen it, Steve, when you were here.
The river runs through it.
A river runs through my property, and it actually brings me wood. So it brings me firewood mostly, but now and again I'll find an ash log in there that's usable or something. But like I said,
Ian's not turned green wood yet. He's only bought kiln dried. Very different type of wood to turn kiln dried.
Ian, okay, so if you've never turned green wood, I highly recommend doing it, even if you just to get the feel for it, because turning green wood is a completely different feel. It turns like butter usually, so it's a pleasure to cut. It really is. Sometimes you'll get a piece of dry kiln dried wood, and when you're cutting it, it's hot. The shavings are hot, and they almost can burn you. They're so hot. You take a piece of green wood, and it might spit at you a little bit. So you might need a raincoat, but it cuts like butter usually. And get it down to a rough thickness, and then off to the drying process. Yeah, green wood is nice.
Yeah,
to cut.
I'm doing a lot of debating with this, and it's only fern wood that fell. The tree that fell at my mother-in-law's house.
Yeah,
it's only soft wood, but it's green. It's it's freshly down, and I'm considering having a play with it.
The problem with that wood is
the
problem with that wood, Steve, is you're going to have a lot of sap in it.
Yeah,
and that's going to gum your tools up and stuff. Definitely have a go with it, have a play with it. No harm in it.
Yeah,
but
I want to do some of the multi-axis stuff and see what happens with it as it dries. That's kind of what I want to do. I want to kind of get some shapes into it and then just leave it and see what happens with it. Just an experiment.
I would at least
remove
the bark before you put it on the lathe, though, because the bark's where all the sap is and that. But
right. Yeah.
You don't want that stuck to your lathe and everywhere.
Yeah, because it's crappy wood. I can pretty much cut it into.
Do you remember when we were kids playing in trees and you'd get the sap in your fingers and,
when we used to climb across all the trees that went round
Around
the
the
tennis court
courts
in
about
the tennis court in the park.
by Ashcroft School.
Yeah. Used
I
to go
used to do
from
that.
tree to tree and jump down on girls and scare them. I always wondered why I never used to get a date.
Do you want to get into that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, don't want to go there. Don't want to go there ever again. What wood was that? Fern.
So
Fern.
there's Douglas fir, which is another kind of tree, which is actually often, it's a semi-hardwood, I guess. It's used a lot for flooring, Steve. Come on now. Douglas fir is used a lot for flooring. I actually have some in the carport that is like ancient. It's really old. Douglas fir. I got a piece over here. Shall I get it, Steve? I'm going to go get it.
Well, yeah, you want to show your wood off, Rob? You go ahead.
I'm going to show off this piece of Douglas fir. Keep them busy for a minute.
When you see the long streamers coming off the wood a la Glenn Lucas, Ashley Harwood videos, that's because the wood is green. Yes. More times than not, Adam, yes. They would turn green wood. Absolutely.
So I've got this piece of Douglas fir. I've worked at the old Heinz factory a lot over the years in Leamington, Ontario, and they have these big wooden barrels. I don't know what you've been talking about, Steve, but stop it.
That's after I'd climbed down from the trees with the girls.
Well, you're the guy with the name Rubber Dub. Hey? Is that what you call it?
Adam, I'll put it up again because you weren't here. Adam asked this: when you see the long streamers coming off the wood a la Glenn Lucas, Ashley Harwood videos, that's because the wood is green, ? And I said, yes, more times than not, Glenn Lucas is turning green wood and you get the streamers. When you know what you're doing, you can get dry wood to do them streams as well, but you're going to get it more often with the wet wood.
Definitely. Anyway, back to the Douglas fir. They had these big barrels of Douglas fir. This is a stave. That's a stave from a barrel. And you can see the grain, how tight that grain is. And I have actually turned that.
Actually, I must go and grab the Douglas fir I've been offered.
It is kind of soft wood. So, and this wood has kind of an odor to it because whatever was in the barrel is now in the wood. So it does have an odor.
Was it alcohol, did you say? No.
It was actually a beer fermenting barrel. Now, I don't know why they would be fermenting beer, but it might be part of the process for vinegar because it was in that area of the plant where they make vinegar. So maybe beer fermenting is a process that they have to do with vinegar.
Beer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, Rob, it's 12 minutes past 11. So that's the end of the show.
It is.
I'm afraid. I think it's been pretty informative. I hope it's been informative to those that have been watching. If you have any ideas for stuff that you want covered on shows, then please feel free to let us know on the Facebook page, where I completely forgot to share this show. I just realized.
I didn't share it either.
Many things to do. So many things to do. But yes.
How many people are in chat?
There are 22 at the moment, by the look of it.
22.
That are watching anyway.
Okay.
But yes. I wanted to just say maybe we'll do a live on videoing, YouTube videos, and making thumbnails and videoing and processing and all that. If that's a sort of show that you'd be interested in, then give us a yes or a no on across the social medias. Say you'd like to see it or not. It's just something that maybe isn't talked about enough, of how and what programs and software you can use that's free and the stuff that you can do and direction you can go doing lives and stuff like that. People might be thinking about doing lives, so we'll do that. I got confirmation today that from a very well-known wood turner.
You're not going to
do an interview with me.
Don't say the name.
No, I won't say no. I'll keep it secret for now.
And I also have somebody in the works too. So
yeah, but two very good wood turners that we are going to be interviewing over the next week or two. So yes, and next week I do have to find out some information about some honey badgers.
Honey badgers? Why honey badgers?
Yeah, honey badgers. Just
honey badgers don't give a
honey badgers. Yeah. I promise. So next week we will do a special segment on honey badgers. Right, that's it, folks. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking part, giving us all your opinions and answers and questions in the chat. It's always very much appreciated. I hope you found this informative. And once again, just as a disclaimer, we are not professionals. We are not professionals.
Steve,
read instructions. Read safety instructions. Yes, I'm way past professional help. Believe me, I know, because professionals have given up. Right, okay, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers, Rob.
Cheers, Steve.
Clack.
Pound that pound. Okay, click.
Oh,
elbows because of COVID.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah. Rubbing elbows.
Right. Right, thank you very much, guys. We're going to say good night. It's been a pleasure, as always. We will see you again next week on show number... Oh, we are on 161 subscribers.
Cool. Brian, hit the rewind button. You can start all over. He's late.
You're all right, Brian. You can watch it back. Yes, we're at 161 subscribers. I think when we get to 200, we might sort out a little Prezi prize for a giveaway. What do you reckon?
Just a little one. I think we could do that.
Just a little one. Yeah. I think we'll do some sort of giveaway. I'll cover Europe. Rob can do the States.
Europe's quite big.
Yeah, but I mean postage. And stuff like that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll work something out anyway. I don't know who's going to sort out the UK because they're not either or either. So, ooh, I said it.
Brexit. They're on their own.
Right, we're going to say goodnight. Yes, so 160 subscribers. So please share, like, get it out there and try and get us to 200. We would really appreciate that. All right, guys, we shall see you again. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up on your way out. And we'll see you again next week. Until then, bye, Rob.
Bye. Cheers, Steve. Bye. We'll see you next week.
See ya. Bye.